Today in this video, I'm going to answer a question that gets asked a lot amongst people who are looking into getting into the freeze drying space, which is, can you earn money freeze drying? Now, I believe you can because I've been living it as a side hustle income, making great money on top of my full-time job for the past 4 years. I've also interviewed entrepreneurs on this channel who have grown their company into a multi-million-dollar business. Your success in growing a freeze drying business is going to depend on 4 different things. One is your desire to learn the actual industry. Do you understand the freeze dryer? What's it doing to different products from fruit, candy, ice cream, and meals? Also, it's going to depend on you building a recognizable brand and also building a unique product. You got to build something that not everybody else is doing, or maybe it's just a modification that makes you stand out amongst everybody else that's doing freeze drying. And lastly, it's going to come down to your tenacity and desire to win in your business. A lot of people can start a business, but can you continue to grow and get through the adversities of the ebbs and flows of failure and success in your business? Now, whether you are new or experienced in freeze drying, this channel and these videos are all about helping you learn how the industry in freeze drying works, especially starting a freeze drying business. So if you're not a subscriber, hit that subscribe button right now and become a follower of this channel. Now today, I'm going to take you through a live scenario of my freeze drying business to show you how you can earn money freeze drying. Now stay with me in this video because I'm going to share with you a tutorial on the spreadsheet that I have to calculate your expenses and your ROI and what type of pricing you need to evaluate when you're looking at your break-even point as well as your profit so that you can actually make money using your freeze dryer. Now right behind me is my commercial kitchen that I rent. This commercial kitchen is licensed with the Central District Health Department of the state of Idaho. So I've gone through all the regulatory things to be able to operate inside this kitchen. The nice part about this kitchen is that it's already licensed to operate a business like mine. I don't have to go out and get my own lease. I don't have to get all the expenses of all the equipment. It already has a lot of the stainless steel equipment and things for sanitization, all of that inside here. And I pay a monthly fee to keep my freeze dryer in here. I also pay an hourly rate to operate just like today in there. Now, renting a commercial kitchen like this is a great way for you to test the waters on whether you are the right fit for running a food processing company, because there's a lot of different regulations. In Idaho, it's a little bit more lax. California, New York, lots of other states that are a little bit more blue than red happen to be a little bit more restrictive on the food safety measures. Now, that can be a good thing. It could also be a bad thing when you're trying to start a business, but overall, you want to just check with your local health district, whoever is represented there for the state agriculture department, FDA, whatever that is. Just type into Google, call them, email them, ask them what you need to be able to operate in a commercial kitchen. And I just think that if you start doing this right away and you do it for 6 months to a year, you can really see whether you want to explore into investing an actual leased spot for your own commercial use. Now let me explain to you a little bit about what we're going to do in this video. I've got a live scenario for you to see how I'm actually going to make money in my business, because I have a really unique request from one of my wholesale customers where typically they buy my 5.5 by 8.5 bag. That's my standard bag that I have, craft bags. You can take a look at the video description if you want to see what those bags look like. And typically I sell those, but I also have these tiny bags that I've done some samples in, things like that, but they decided that they wanted to order hundreds of these little tiny bags. Now with freeze drying, you're taking the water weight out of the food. So if you're freeze drying fruit, you're taking almost 90% of that weight away. So I've done videos in the past on what the net weight will be after freeze drying. You can take a look at that video above it here in the cards or in the video description. But I wanted to go through this scenario because I think it's a good practice for me to show you how I go through the methods of figuring out how much money I need to make in order to break even on my blueberries with the packaging and labels expenses, as well as what my profit should be after I break even. I've already freeze dried some blueberries. They're actually ready in the freeze dryer. We're going to pull them out and then we're going to bag them in those tiny bags, and we're going to see how many bags I get out of all those blueberries that I put in there. Let's go ahead and head on into my commercial kitchen and get these blueberries bagged and show you how to earn money with your freeze dryer. Now, if you're going to freeze dry fruit in your business, it's not the most profitable type of product that you can produce. I'd probably think that candy, or if you were actually able to grow your own fruit, if you have a farm, you have a direct purchase from those. But if you're buying your fruit from a local market or from the grocery store like I do, you're cutting into your profit margin, so you don't have as much there. The reason I continue to do fruit, and the reason you should as well, is because people are looking for a healthy alternative, and what better way than to look at fruit as an alternative. Freeze-dried fruit becomes very snackable. It's a way for you to, travel without having to carry a cooler. And also the application for freeze-dried fruit is really nice after the fact it's freeze-dried. So you can powderize all of the fruit to become a powder, and you can bake with it. People add it for frosting and for flavoring of different types of things. So there's a lot of different applications for fruit, and I seem to sell about 50% compared to my ice cream and candy in my freeze-drying business when I'm going out to markets, as well as online on my website. So selling freeze-dried fruit is definitely something to take a look at, and I'm going to show you what type of profit margin we're going to generate from the freeze-dried blueberries that I've got here. Now let's talk about packaging. I did a video on the 8 commonly most asked questions about packaging for a freeze-drying business. You can take a look at that video in the video description, as well as the cards above here. But I'll talk to you about what I'm going to use today to do these sample bags. Now, again, I told you that I've done a sample for different types of people looking at my wholesale products. So I send that typically, but I've never done an actual order with my sample bags. Now, the reason I still stamp my product, even though it's very labor intensive, is I just haven't had the cost benefit to outweigh myself in the amount of orders and demand that I have for my product, because I've kind of scaled back and made my business more sustainable. I don't really have a desire right now to grow my business exponentially and get into more of the volume-based bags. So I just still stamp my bags, and I'm going to show you that today. And so we're going to stamp my logo on the front. We're going to put my label that I have for ingredients and all my business information that's required by the Central District Health Department on the back of here. Then we're going to load it up with the blueberries. Now, the shelf life on these bags I've typically found to be about 2 to 3 months. That's if they're stored in a very dry place, as well as a non-lit area. So I tell all my customers who buy my fruit that these have windows, and so they're susceptible to having sunlight impact the freeze-dried product. The 3 factors that are going to impact the freshness as well as the durability of your freeze-dried product is going to be sunlight, oxygen, and moisture. The moisture is going to be taken out in the freeze dryer, and the oxygen and the sunlight are the other 2 factors that we don't really have control over. You can reduce the amount of oxygen in your bags by using oxygen absorbers. You can also reduce the amount of sunlight by not using bags that have windows. But if you want it to be presentable, you want people to see your product, windows are a great option for you to choose when it comes to packaging. Now, the easy calculation to get a rough estimate of what you're expected to get as a net result from freeze drying is take the gross amount of weight that you put in your freeze dryer for these blueberries, which I put in a container of 18 ounces of gross blueberries, and I bought 11 of them, and then I pre-froze them, and then I put them on the freeze dryer trays, and then we freeze dried them. So if I just divide whatever I'm going to get net out of these freeze dryers and divide that by the 0.30 ounces that I'm going to put in my bags, then I might get a rough idea of how many blueberry bags I'm going to get, and therefore I can then start buying my blueberries in bulk that are in season right now, and then I can actually know, hey, I need to do 12 cycles of blueberries in order to get my orders fulfilled for the amount of hundreds of bags that she ordered. But today I want to show you kind of the full process of how I might forecast how much net production I'm going to get out of the freeze dryer to how it relates to how many bags we're going to get for an order that you may get in your freeze drying business. Hey, do me a favor real quick and hit the thumbs up on this video if you're liking the content, because this is really going to help get it out to more people who are searching on YouTube or Google about how to earn money with a freeze dryer. I'd really appreciate it. Now, one of the things I use short term for getting freeze dried products out of the freeze dryer is I use these hefty 2.5 gallon bags. Now, for longer term storage that you may have seen in other videos that I've done, is I use a 5 gallon 8-gallon bucket that's food safe, as well as a 12-gallon bucket for storing freeze-dried candy, ice cream, and fruit. So if you're looking for any of these type of buckets, check out the video description below. I've got a link to my Amazon storefront. There you'll find links to all the different types of products that I use in my freeze-drying business. Now for this right here, we're going to put all the blueberries from these trays in this bag right here, and then we'll bag it into our actual craft bag. So I'm going to put this into the bag, and there's some stuck on here, which is perfectly fine. If you don't want them to stick, you can use parchment paper. You can also use the silicone mats that Harvest Right sells. If you want parchment paper, go to the video description. I've got a link to freezedryingsupplies.com. Great US made products, and they've got a lot of different things for you to use for freeze drying. Now this is what freeze drying is all about. You're taking the water out of the fruit and getting a light, crunchy type of fruit snack out of this. Has the same great flavor and is very applicable to creating a powder, making it into smoothies, things like that. So let's now get this into these bags. All right, there's a lot of different aspects to freeze drying and doing this as a business. Some of you are going to use stickers. Some of you are going to do custom bags where you're printing it in bulk. Perfectly fine. I run a side business on top of my full-time job and running this channel, so I just kind of keep things very simple from what I know. Now since 2020, I've used a stamp as well as an ink pad to stamp my logo, Freeze Dried Depot, onto these craft bags. I know it takes a lot of time. I kind of like the authenticity and the look of my bags when I use a stamp, so that's what I do today. Now if you're interested in purchasing a stamp or looking at the different logos and how it looks on a stamp, I take a look at Zazzle.com. It's in the video description down below. You can take a look at all the different stamps that they've got, and also I recommend using more of like a 4x3, 4x4-inch type of stamp. It gets it large enough to where it's good on a larger bag. You also want to make sure the bags are actually good for stamping and having that ink. So you don't want the ink to bleed through. These craft bags don't do that, so that's why I really like doing them. Now just for transparency, to show you how much time it's going to take me to stamp these 50 bags, I'm going to put a stopwatch on this and then put it on a time lapse, listen to some music, and then we'll be ready to put the labels on the bags as well. So let's get started. I did 50 bags in about 2 minutes and 33 seconds. The thing to remember about stamping is that you want to get it right aligned, right in the middle. And I've done a pretty good job just with the past few years of doing this, that I get it right in the middle, and also with a full press so that my logo and all my information gets really stamped well with the ink. Now if I have things that kind of look different or doesn't get completely on there, I'll actually toss this aside because I just want my bags to look very professional. So let's go ahead and get the labels now on the back of these bags so it can all go out to sell. Now having labels on food type products is probably one of the most important things that you're going to be required to do to start a freeze drying business. Whether it's candy, fruit, ice cream, meals, vegetables, pet food, anything like that that you're going to sell that is processed, you're going to have to put certain information based on the state that you live in. Now in the state of Idaho, I'm required to put different types of things on my labels. Some of them are different than other states. So it's up to you to determine what types of things are going to meet the requirements so that you can start selling your product. I've also got 2 different types of videos that answer the questions of what needs to be on these labels in general to make sure that you're compliant. So check out those videos in the video description, like always, or in the cards above. But what we're going to do is we're going to put the labels on these bags now. This is part of the process with your freeze drying business. And so you're going to put these labels right on the back of the bag. That way it shows the amount of ounces that that person is going to be consuming, as well as what the name of the product is, my brand name, and also where it's produced and where they can contact me as well. You can include all different types of information on this, including maybe different ways that they can access your different products through Shopify. If you have a website, maybe you have Etsy, maybe you have TikTok accounts, all that type of jazz can go on the back of these labels. Now, the easiest way to get these types of things done is, one, you could develop custom bags, and that way, like, blueberries are already on your bags and then you don't have to put that in there. You also don't technically need to have nutritional facts of how many calories, those types of things on these labels, as long as you remain under a certain amount of gross sales in your business, depending on kind of where you live. Now, I've got a link to the FDA small business exception link that they have where you can apply to not have to have those nutritional facts on your bags. And so if you want to look that up more, I've checked with my health district and they say that that website and the FDA gives the exemption, so you don't have to do that. So I can still sell here, because that's a lot of work trying to figure out what the kind of nutrition facts would be. Now, as you can see, this is also labor intensive too. What I've done in my business is I hand this off to some of my nephews who do this for me. They do the stamping, they do some of these labels on bags. It's very easy for, you know, some kids to get some additional money, and also it just provides me an opportunity to do other things that I can focus on in my business, like, you know, poking all the blueberries, getting things prepped, getting things sold, all of that. So I leave kind of the more tedious things like this to some kids. You can have friends, family, anybody kind of do these types of things to help you get ahead in your business. So I'm going to do these last 2 labels on these bags. That's going to be 16 total, because there's 8 stickers on these Avery labels, and that way I have 16 to do. Now what I'm going to do now though is I'm gonna cut here, and I'm gonna put the rest of the labels on here, and then we can move on to bagging. All right, now to the fun part. Let's bag all the freeze-dried blueberries with these 50 bags that we already stamped and we put the labels on, so we're ready to sell it. Now, I'm not gonna put oxygen absorbers in these tiny bags. Reason being is I have tested out my samples, and they do last 2 to 3 months, which is perfectly fine for the order that I'm gonna give them, which they're gonna be putting out to their customers for the holidays. So I have to have these delivered by September for my client. So I'm going to make sure that these can last and stay fresh for 2 to 3 months, which I have tested and they do. Now, if I wanted to be overly cautious, I could go ahead and put some of these oxygen absorbers in here. This is the 50cc type of oxygen absorber. It's very tiny. So if I wanted to do that, I could. I just haven't found that I needed to do that to keep the freshness up, and she keeps it in a damp, kind of like temperature controlled warehouse, so it's perfectly fine. All right, so I've got my scale here, okay? And what I'm gonna do first is I'm gonna tear off the bag, because I don't wanna calculate the weight of the bag plus the product. I wanna just calculate how much product is actually in there, because that's what I have on the bag. So I'm gonna put the bag onto the scale. I'm gonna tear it off, which means you're gonna just zero out the scale now. And so now when I take this off, it actually relates to 0.2 ounces is what's in this bag. So when I put all these blueberries in here and I put it back on the scale, it should equal 0.30 ounces, which is perfect. So I snap this up with a Ziploc, and all I have left to do is use my sealer to make sure that the glue on the bag gets stuck together, and it provides one more layer of adhesive to not let any air into this bag for storage. All right, so let's do a couple more of these, and then we'll see how many actual bags we're gonna get out of this bag full of freeze-dried blueberries, because again, this video is going to see how much you can earn with your freeze-dried product, and in this case, freeze-dried blueberries. Now we're going to keep going with this. Again, this is just kind of the process. If you don't have kind of a automated kind of machine that is going to be putting your blueberries into these bags, this is what everyone, and I mean everyone, including myself, is doing in their freeze-drying business. It's a labor-intensive type of job. It can be very fulfilling. You also can find different methods to get this filled up a little bit faster. These tiny bags, just, there's no ifs, ands, or buts. This is the way that they're opened. You have to be able to be good with your fingers and open them up, one with the top, and then you open it up, and then I have my 2 fingers that I put into the bag with my gloves, and then I have to open up the bottom to make sure that there's a nice little flat area for the blueberries to fall into. And once the blueberries are in there, I'm able to fit plenty of blueberries into this bag. I've done about a dozen bags or so far, so I'm gonna put a stopwatch on this to kind of see how long it's gonna take me to do all of these 50 bags, because we're gonna do a calculation at the very end of this video to figure out how much labor we're gonna put into our costs so we can figure out our cost of goods sold, as well as figure out what type of profit we want to earn from our business. Because go ahead and pay yourself, right? That's a cost, but also how much are you going to have left over for profits to either put back in your business or take for yourself, because that's the whole meaning behind a business, right? Is to make money so that you have different means to provide for your family, have vacations, grow and employ people, whatever you want to do with your business. All right, there's the finished product of Freeze Dry Depot, which is my business, and 50 tiny bags for my customer. And then now I kind of am going to calculate, okay, well, what's remaining in the bags, and then how many is this going to produce if I do another cycle of 11 18-ounce containers of blueberries? How much more cycles do I need to do of that quantity to be able to fulfill the order for the hundreds of bags that she's ordered? We might be done in the kitchen, but we're not done with this video yet, because we're going to head back to my office and I'm going to show you through a screen share of how I calculate the ROI for these bags. You can also do this the same and follow along with me by downloading and getting the spreadsheet that I'm going to show you through Google Docs. Go to the video description below and you'll find a link that's titled freezedrybusiness.com/spreadsheet. I'm going to send you an automated email through that link that gets you access to this spreadsheet that you can copy and then make your own type of modifications based on your product and your business. So if you want to follow along with me, go to the video description and get sent that spreadsheet right away. Then you can follow along with me. I'll see you at the office. All right, we're back at my home office, and now here's the fun part. We're going to figure out how we can earn money with our freeze dryer, specifically the freeze dry blueberries that we put in those 50 bags that we did at the kitchen. Now, I've put together a spreadsheet that I use in my business just to simplify things so I can know what my cost is to purchase the product, then after it's freeze dried, how many bags I'm going to get, and then I have a calculation of what the cost per processed bag is going to cost you. What that actually is called is the cost of goods sold. It means how much is it going to cost you to produce one bag or one batch of bags, so that you know how to forecast and kind of figure out your overall cost to produce that product. Now, this spreadsheet template is available for you for free. All you need to do is join my email list for the freeze drying community, and you can do that through freezedrybusiness.com, and then you type in /spreadsheet. Now, you can find that link directly in the video description, or go to this right now, freezedrybusiness.com/spreadsheet. You'll be directed to this landing page. Simply click here, and then put your email address in, and I will send you an automated email directly to you with the link and a tutorial on how to use this spreadsheet. Now, I did a video earlier in 2023 that I used this spreadsheet. I didn't have it available for a lot of people, so now I do. And in today's video, we're actually going to expand a couple of expenses because I left those out the last time. I'm going to review those here shortly. But once you do that, you're going to have the spreadsheet, and then you're going to have the template pulled up just like you're seeing right here. And the key piece of this is it's your own template, but it's not editable if you just keep it like this. You need to go to File and then click on Make a Copy, and then you're just going to name it whatever copy of your business. So if we just do ABC Freeze Dried Business, then we're going to make that a copy. It's going to open up a brand new tab, and then you can put in your own numbers and everything for your business. But this template is very simplistic. I'm not trying to be an Excel whiz here. All you're going to do is you're going to put in your cost of whatever you're going to try to freeze dry, then your bag cost, label cost, and then you're also going to put in whatever you produced out of that one cost of bags of Skittles, or in my case, the 11 cartons of the blueberries, okay? The rest of this I'll explain later. Now, on the right-hand side, I've got just some additional price fields that you can just kind of duplicate and copy. I've already got formulas in these different cells, so you don't really have to do anything. And in this spreadsheet today, I'm going to show you how to add a couple of different expenses that I think are going to make the true cost of goods sold for you, so you can have a really good idea of what the cost will be to produce your product. So let's go ahead and just eliminate actually the E through the I, and I'm just highlighting E, and then I'm pressing down Shift on my keyboard, and then we're just going to delete these columns just so it's a little bit cleaned up here. Okay, and we'll delete this. So this is maybe what your actual template should look like. Okay, now we're going to change taffy to blueberries. And what we're going to calculate here is we're going to put in our cost of our blueberries. Now, in my case, I bought blueberries in an 18-ounce carton. It was on sale and it was $2. It was $2.98. You can see the calculator here. I bought 11 cartons of that. And remember in the video, we did a full cycle of those 11 cartons. So I'm multiplying that by 11. Oh, 78 cents, $32.78 there. Okay, that's the true cost. Now we're going to add two additional types of expenses to this particular calculation. Those two expenses are going to be, one, your labor, because if you're paying someone like an employee, we need to put that cost in to produce the 50 bags of blueberries. Or if you're doing it yourself, how much do you want to pay yourself? Okay, then we'll figure out what the profit is per bag. We actually got 65 bags because I had a little bit left over in the video. And so I actually got 65 bags out of the 11 cartons. Now what we're going to do here is I'm going to highlight the row for number 6, and I'm going to right click and say insert above another row. We're going to do that twice, okay, because we need to put in our labor and we need to write in our rent for the kitchen. In the pricing here, my individual cost, you see this formula here that I'm highlighting? This formula right now is just calculating the cost, overall cost of the product, and then it's dividing that by the number of bags that was produced for the product, 65, and then we're also subtracting the cost by 0.5 cents or 5 cents for a bag, and then 1 cent for the label. Okay, so that is going to give us our individual cost. So what we're going to do for our labor, let's just say we're going to pay somebody $15 an hour, and then we're also going to do the rent. Let's just say the rent to do that hour of labor that I said that we did was, let's say it's $25. Now, the reason I'm saying it's an hour is because in the video, I showed that I timed how long it took me to stamp and label. I also know how long it kind of overall took me to process, meaning poke the blueberries using the roller berry tool. If you want to watch that video, you can. I'll put that in the video description. But that overall, I'm saying about 15 minutes was there to actually package the bags and also put the labels and the stamps, okay? So not that labor intensive. And then it was about 45 minutes collectively for me to do all the blueberries, go to the grocery store, that type of thing. So I'm gonna say it's about an hour to do 65 bags. So now we need to change the formula, add another parentheses. This is just telling it that not only B3 is gonna be included, but we're also going to add the labor line and we're going to add the rent line. Now when you press return, the formula is going to include B3. So our cost for the product, it's going to include our labor and rent. Okay. And now our individual cost is $1.06 per bag. Okay. So we don't even need to do anything else. That's what it costs right now to do those small, tiny bags. Now what's going to change things is what we list the product as. Let's just say right now, I'm going to look at doing this at $4 a bag. Remember looking at different types of things that you purchase. If you buy them in smaller quantities, like a smaller bag, it costs more than the larger bags. Volume plays into a big role. So I'm going to charge $4 for that tiny bag. But on the wholesale side, typically what you're going to price your product at is about 40% less than your retail price. Okay, that's typically what I've seen most people who I wholesale to ask me, or they tell me that's mostly what they purchase through, is probably upwards of 30 to 40%. We're left over with a wholesale margin rate of 33%, which is actually, it's really good. Now, if we change the list price to $3, then look, check this out. It drops by about 9%. So you're going to be able to change this based on what you want to pay yourself. Let's maybe change our labor to $30 an hour. Because, if I'm just doing it myself, I know what I would want to be paid. And for that hour, I want to be paid $30 an hour. It dropped it down a little bit, but not too much. So I like having that $30 an hour there. You could do it even upwards of $40 an hour. So maybe what that covers is 2 people doing this job packaging, doing all that, and you're paying them each $20 an hour. This is kind of what you're needing to calculate very simplistically about your business. I hope this is all making sense and you're having some fun kind of looking at this analysis. This is what this spreadsheet's all about. All right, now let's put this into more realistic terms for an order. So if, let's say, she ordered 2,000 bags of those tiny bag samples, now we actually have a great idea of what we're going to make. And let's look at this in totality. All right, let's do some calculations. So now we're going to do equal sum, and we're going to calculate 2,000 bags multiplied by the $2.40 that we know we're going to offer them in wholesale rate, which is $4,800. That's actually how much we're going to make. Okay, so this is the product. This is the gross sales for wholesale. We know to get 2,000 bags, how many cycles, how many hours is that going to take us to get there? Because we've already got that figured out in this individual cost. It's going to take 30 cycles roughly for us to do all this. Multiplied by our $40 an hour, we're going to pay ourselves $1,200 to do all this. Now, there's still the work to be done, but to pay yourself $1,200 to do freeze-dried blueberries and then still have a profit on wholesale at a 40% markdown, really not too bad. So can you earn money with your freeze dryer? Yes, you can. And I just showed you how, using some basic formulas on your pricing for your product, as well as figuring out your labor and your wholesale rate. All those different aspects are variables to how you want to run your business. And I've given you the template for free. If you haven't downloaded that yet, go to the freezedriedbusiness.com/spreadsheet landing page, and you can download that, make a copy, and make it for yourself. A couple things. One is you can do this as a side income. You don't have to do this full time. You can test the waters, and I believe you can make money because people that are in your local community are looking to support local businesses with different products. Sometimes you're just going to have a better relationship than other freeze-dried companies. You can still make a great living. And remember, it's about having a unique brand, your tenacity to win, and also understanding this industry. Because if you understand it more than other people who are just looking for the quick buck, you're going to understand what the power of the freeze dryer can do for different applications with different products and non-food products as well. Now, number two is I've interviewed multi-million-dollar businesses who have taken freeze drying to the next level. They're very innovative with creating unique products. I've also interviewed multiple freeze-dried candy businesses, and even though they're freeze-drying branded candy, they've also developed their own candy as well. It's really fun, interesting, and it's all through the Frozen Assets podcast series where I'm focusing on entrepreneurs in this freeze drying space. So get inspired and see what they're doing, and maybe you can roll out the same type of product yourself. It takes work. It takes you understanding the industry and also having the desire to win and building a really good brand that resonates with your audience. If you want to know more about freeze drying, check out those videos coming up next or follow this channel. We'll see you there.